Welcome to Talking Jets. My name's Ryan and I'll be your pilot tonight. I am joined alongside my co-pilots. I've got Matt O'Leary and Green Bean, the Jets fan. Matt, how you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. We got a lot of rumors and situations and mock drafts to talk through rather. It's my favorite time of year where the rumors are circulating and it's very fun on the internet each and every day.
Right.
Green Bean, how you doing tonight?
Yeah, I completely agree with Matt. This is my favorite time of year. I look forward to it. The season's just a bunch of bullshit in the way to now. This is the time of year I like. I want to talk stuff. And let me say one thing. Quentin Williams isn't going anywhere. And then we'll see what that means later on, but he's not. I'm happy to be here, man.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in with us. We are going to go over all the trade rumors, all the speculation, all your guys' thoughts on everything Jets related. But I wanted to get to something real quick. Tonight, we are going to be donating all super chats. All donations are going to go to a good friend of mine that passed away. Tragically, there was a helicopter accident up in Rochester. Good friend Danny Pryle, West Point grad, phenomenal track and field runner back in high school. Him and I had known each other for a long time. Really, really good Jets fan, big time Jets fan. So he has there's a little link in the description down below for a charity that goes to raise money towards local charities. So if you guys do feel the need to donate or anything like that, that'll be linked directly in the description down below, as well as all super chats will be donated at the end of this. I will also be donating $200 towards the charity afterwards as well. So if you guys do feel that need, that's there. But guys, let's turn this around. Let's talk a little bit of news. We'll talk about some of the Deshaun Watson rumors. I feel like this is going to be a thing week in and week out that we are doing here, because every week we're hearing little bits of, rumors, a tweet here, a trade rumor there. So what are our thoughts right now where it stands? Matt, I'll throw it to you first. What are your thoughts on Deshaun Watson? Any new developments?
I definitely think he is going to get traded. The Jets being the favorite to land him is both scary because I'm not used to putting all my eggs in the Jets basket and trying and hoping for things to work out. Like, I want it to work out, obviously, but I'm nervous to get my energy up and to that point where I think Deshaun Watson's going to be a New York Jet. Like, the letdown for happening a second time is just going to be too much for me to handle. So I'm trying to stay as far back as possible on that, but there's so many things that are oddly lining up here where it's hard not to get excited about, right? Like, I feel like we've all three of us have talked about that, but there's just so many things that keep lining up in the cryptic tweets. It's hard not to get excited about it. So it's absolutely something on my mind. And I think there's reason for the fans to think that this is a strong possibility.
Green Bean, what are your thoughts regarding Deshaun Watson and any new developments or rumors you've heard?
Yeah, it's funny because I am very tentative in these types of things, but I want to tell everyone watching, and let's see how many people we have. I can't see, but we have like 300 people in here. So I'm going to tell all 300 of you, get your Deshaun Watson pants on because it's happening. Now I'm going to tell you one other reason why. It's one more piece, like Matt just said, that is lining up, is that the Miami Dolphins, largely considered our main competition, just hired Charlie Fry for their quarterback coach. Charlie Fry was Tua's coach in high school. So it seems to me like it's just one more little piece of, like, one more coin on the other side of the scale that Miami's out. They can't compete with us in this thing. Plus, like I say in my podcast, which just came out today, the optics of the Texans trading back, using the Watson to get the pick they traded to the Dolphins last year back, is they'll never live it down, dude. You can't do it. You just can't do that. So anyway, Charlie Fry is just one more thing. The only thing that can stop this trade, in my opinion, is the Texans being ridiculous with their requests. Like, we want 4 firsts, Quentin Williams, Javelin Guidry, whatever else. They have to be ridiculous. Other than that, it's a perfect trade. It's a perfect scenario. So get them, go buy your Watson underoos because he's coming.
Dude, I am all on board Deshaun Watson. Like that. So here's my thought process. I'm still concerned. I'm cautiously optimistic for how this could potentially turn out for the New York Jets, because I think there's, it could come crashing down like Matt said. Just breaks my heart to see Trevor Lawrence not go to the Jets, number 1 overall, and now you have Watson with the potential of that, everything going on there. I think if Deshaun Watson is traded, I would say there is an 85% chance that he is going to the New York Jets. I think the other options are he's going to stay in Houston. They're going to patch things up with either, Leslie Frazier, Eric Bieniemy, someone like that to try and appease him. And then I guess the other 15% of my theoretical 100% pie here is going to be towards the Miami Dolphins. And I don't want to see him go to Miami Dolphins. That's like the biggest thing. Like, not only are we worried about him possibly, I shouldn't say worried about him possibly getting traded, but us trying to get him, but just trying to prevent him from going to Miami. So Matt, I'll ask you this. What do you think the value is just from preventing him from going to Miami alone? Like what would you give to make sure he didn't go to Miami?
Yeah, that's a great point. And you have to consider doing this trade just to keep him out of Miami. Because can you imagine playing in a division with Josh Allen and Deshaun Watson for the next 10 years? Good freaking luck with that. It's not going to be fun. But if Deshaun Watson's on your side, it makes things a little bit easier, obviously. I do agree with what Green Bean's saying with the Texans and Dolphins maybe not being that great of trade partners, because how embarrassing would that be that you have to trade your franchise quarterback to get that pick or those picks back that you gave them in the first place. So I do think that plays a role in it for sure. And if you're Joe Douglas, like, that's absolutely something that has to cross your mind. Like, you're either rooting for him to get traded to your team or traded to the NFC, because if he's in the AFC or even in your division, that just makes life so much harder.
Yeah, that's just it. Like, if he's in our division for 10 years and the Jets are still trying to figure out the quarterback position, because let's take the last 20 years as an example. It's been Chad Pennington, a few nice years of Sanchez, one good year of Fitzpatrick, and then pretty much the rest has been horrible. So to think like, all right, the Jets are just going to figure it out and they're not going to have to worry about Watson being in Miami is foolish. You can't just think that. So I think more than likely, what that value is to me, I think maybe it's a second round pick, just a second round pick to, like, if both trades are even and they're like, hey, we're going with the Dolphins, I'll be like, here's an extra second. like let's just prevent him from going over there, because you're talking 10 years of potential double digit, like 2 losses a year to the Dolphins. Like, that's concerning. And I know guys are going to say, oh, well, Watson just had 4 wins on his current team. Well, the Dolphins are totally different. And the Jets are all I'm worried about. I don't care about the other 14 games. I'm worried about the Jets. Green Bean, I'll ask you this. What are your thoughts towards the Dolphins possibly getting Watson, and what would you give up to prevent him from going there? Mitch, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. That really, really does mean a lot. It's going to go to a really good cause. So thank you so much. Green Bean, I'll throw it to you.
So let me say this. It's really an interesting question. And so the podcast that I did this week, I actually had the opportunity to interview someone. It's an old friend of mine, but his name is Joe the Comic, and he has a couple podcasts. But he has a stat that he shared on the podcast, and I'll give it to you guys now. He said that since 1983, the AFC East has always had 1 Hall of Fame coach and 1 Hall of Fame quarterback in the division, not on the Jets. So for the last 37 years, one of our opponents has had a Hall of Fame coach and a Hall of Fame quarterback. 10 of those years, 2 teams had 2 Hall of Fame coaches and 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks in our division. So stopping Miami from getting, like, Brady leaves, with all respect to Josh Allen, it's not, I'm not putting him in the Hall of Fame yet, right? He's still got some ways to go, but he's a good quarterback. So stopping Deshaun Watson from going to the Dolphins is really more important than you think, because of the lineage of the AFC East. The AFC East has been in like half of the Super Bowls, if not more, over the past 20 years as well. I mean, it's been the Patriots, of course, but it's like it's always the AFC East. Before that, it was 4 years of Buffalo Bills. Before that, it was the Dan Marino Dolphins, and so we have to really remember that this could be our chance to actually get one of those guys on our side. We have not had it. Now, Chad Pennington was a legitimate franchise quarterback. He wasn't the level of Marino or Brady, but without the injuries, Chad Pennington would have been the best quarterback that we've ever had. I mean, that's the truth of it. He was incredibly accurate, a winner, all those kinds of things. So I think that does add some value. It's not the kind of thing that you would sacrifice your farm just to stop them from getting that, getting him. You can't live that way, but I think it absolutely needs to be factored in. And right, it's like, I think like, hey, if it's one more second and he doesn't go to Miami and he comes here, you give the second. Something like that. So I think it's pretty important. Very cool stat. I never knew that. So it's fucking terrible when you think about that, isn't it?
Dude, it's ridiculous. How many years was it that there has been a Hall of Famer not on the Jets?
37 years. Oh, and listen to this. The 1 year that the Bills, Dolphins, and Pats did not have a Hall of Fame coach or quarterback, Peyton Manning was in our division still. So we had that asshole to contend with. So we always had it. We always had like a Marino,
We've had the best quarterbacks of all time.
Of all time. We're our opponents, dude. So, and it's like, and meanwhile, we have this inept leadership that drafting defensive tackles every 2 years with the top 5 pick, safeties, and we can't get out of our own way. So we finally have a legitimate GM. It looks like, well, we have a universally respected head coach. We don't know what he is, but he's respected. Where Gase was not, you know what I mean? Bowles, not necessarily respected, but not universally. And then now we have this opportunity to give up a couple first that Joe Douglas made himself. It's not like we don't have this extra capital that he created and that we're going to put ourselves in a 4-year hole. We can do this. Joe Douglas put us in a position to do it without sacrificing our future. And these opportunities don't come around, every so often. And if we don't, Miami's probably gonna, and then we got that shit to deal with for the next at least 10 years. Deshaun Watson in our face 2 weeks a year.
Oh, It would be absolutely, absolutely brutal.
Yeah,
Sal Massa, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, my condolences to your friend Danny, RIP. Thank you so much. It's going to a very good cause. Honestly, regarding the Watson rumors, every single person seems to be reporting that the Jets are favorites besides Matt Miller. I just think he's mad. He's lost his plug in the organization. I'm not a big Matt Miller fan at all. I think if you're looking at it just from an objective point of view, the Jets have the most cap space, or at least the most cap space of the teams that are going to matter, because you're talking the Colts and the Jaguars are the other two options. Both in division. He's not going there. And we have tons of draft picks. So anyone who's objectively looking at this, unless Watson says, I'm not going to the Jets, or Douglas says, I'm not trading what's necessary to get Watson, the Jets are by far the most, likely landing spot for Deshaun Watson. Matt, I'll throw it to you. What are your thoughts on Matt Miller and Jets reporters reporting all this sort of stuff? What do you think?
Yeah, it's been strange kind of following the beat. Like, you have Connor Hughes tweeting about Star Wars. Like, can we get a Jets update? Like, I know it's a fun gimmick in the offseason. You're watching ranking the movies. Like, I get it. But, like, it's a little weird when the top line's filled with, takes of 20-plus-year-old movies when these rumors are circling around. As for Miller, I at one point I liked him. I thought he was gave some intriguing insight on the draft. I've kind of soured on him a little bit over the last year or so. I think his Jets takes are a little off, so that's probably why I've come to sour on him. But I don't. His take basically was that why would he want to come to the Jets because of the ownership and what Woody Johnson was accused of, and like part of me gets that. Like, yeah, if those things really happen, that's an awful thing that Woody Johnson did, but are we going to just pretend like that every single owner in football is a choir boy except for the Johnson family? Like, most of these owners are scum. Like, this is not new information here. So It's not like you have these great opportunities where you're like, oh my God, 30 of the owners in the NFL are phenomenal people and I can't wait to play for them. It's not really, it doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah, there's really not like owners that I feel like you'll look at and you say like, oh, that's a shining example of the guy I want to be around all the time. Like these guys are just wealthy trust fund guys that have had tons and tons of money. Like I think the most I would say most down to earth owner that I've sort of come across isn't even football. It's like Mark Cuban. Like I look at him, I'm like, oh, this guy like just kind of gets it. Like I would want to go play with him or for him or whatever. Like I think it's always going to be the GM, the head coach. It's like the owners are these hidden guys pulling all the strings and puppeteering everyone. Green Bean, what are your thoughts on Matt Miller and the Jets beat reporters saying that the Jets are the favorites to land Deshaun Watson, but Miller's kind of throwing a little bit of shade. What do you think there?
Well, I think that job well done by Miller because he has quite literally hundreds of thousands of people talking about him today, and all he did was put up a picture of Woody Johnson and say one sentence. That's all he did. So, and I think that the implication is really, and I actually, look, I don't do this all the time, but I tweeted him. Which I fucking, you can clearly tell just by my way I said that I don't do this often, but I tweeted him and I just said, I'm really disappointed in this because like you have a platform. Woody Johnson was never, it was never confirmed that he did anything. Somebody said something that he said something. That's all that is. Now, again, if he did it, he's wrong. But in the application portion of this, Woody Johnson and the Jets are way ahead of the curve on supporting minorities, man. Like we hired Herm Edwards before the Rooney Rule. Chris Johnson, when all this stuff happened with Kaepernick, they were, San Francisco was cutting Kaepernick, and Chris Johnson was on the field arm in arm with his players. We had Todd Bowles. We just hired the first Muslim. So I'm not saying that we're perfect or anything, but I think in the, like I said, when you apply the actions of someone, the Woody Johnson and Chris Johnson led Jets happen to be a little bit ahead of the game of the rest of the NFL owners on embracing the future and the way things should have been and the way things are going. The Johnsons are ahead of it. So it's like, why, like what is that? But he wanted a story. He got a story. It worked. He probably made his yearly career, the commissions and whatever else, just on that tweet alone. So, and that's what they're going for. Remember, Matt was telling us, the whole thing, if it bleeds, it leads. And like, unfortunately, that's true. Like they're looking for blood, man. They're looking for the thing that's going to stir up the people. But like, I'll say this to all Jets fans, just pay attention, man, because this is the end of the national media kicking us. We've been easy punching bag for a long time. They love it. They've become used to it. They love to poke at us because we're a rambunctious fan base. That shit's on its way out. Joe Douglas is changing all that, man. He's the first legitimate GM we've had in 35 years. All right. So just, that's what this is. It's the last vestiges of people taking their shots while they can and getting their free clicks and everything while they can. But I think it's irresponsible and it's sad, man.
Yeah, Greg Tarr, thank you so much for the super chat. It's going to be going to a great cause. Guys, again, if you do want to donate, all super chats tonight are going to go to a local charity here to support a foundation that Danny, deeply cared about. So 100% of that is going to go there. I will also be donating $200 at the end, after everything's all said and done to go along with everything. But thank you guys so much for chipping in. Dylan coming in with a super chat saying Pat McAfee had someone on his show today saying there are rumors that Houston and Detroit trade involving Watson and Stafford and some picks. Yeah. So I guess let's go around the horn here and let's talk a little bit about that. What do we think about Deshaun Watson possibly going to Detroit or a Detroit-Houston trade? Green Bean, I'll throw it to you first.
Well, I know. I will look again, just like Matt and I were saying at the opening. This is rumor season, man. This is one of the most fun aspects of this time of year is that there's lots of misdirection there's smoke and mirrors, there's misdirection, there's guys looking for stories, looking for clicks. There's lots of unconfirmed sources right about now. I heard from a source, like that shit's going on all over the place. I think there could be some legitimacy to the idea of like a quarterback swap kind of a thing. But the truth is that Watson is 9 years. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's like 8 or 9 years younger than Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford was a 2009 draft, first pick in the 2009 draft. So they're at different levels. I think Matt Stafford's a very good quarterback. He's by far, obviously, the best of his draft class. And I think a change of scenery for him is going to be good. But I don't put him at the level of Watson. So some sort of swap, even Steven, I don't think's happening. And I don't know how interested. I think if the Houston Texans are going to get rid of Watson, it's to start anew, in my opinion. I don't think bringing in the old veteran, the old, you know what I mean, the old warhorse sort of thing is really doesn't make sense to me. It's not how I would see it. I think they want to start fresh. I think a rookie quarterback would make more sense there. Flip the rookie pay scale and all that sort of stuff. So I think there's probably some legitimacy to some talks, but I think that one's probably more rumor than anything else.
Matt, what about you? What are your thoughts on Deshaun Watson possibly going to Detroit?
I don't buy it. And I love the Pat McAfee show. I'm not saying that even what the guy who was on the show wasn't, saying something that he truly believed. I just don't think that it adds up. Like, why is he going to want to force his way to Detroit where they just hired that psycho Dan Campbell? Like, that just seems like another toxic situation. He's going to want to go from one toxic situation to arguably the second most toxic situation. Like, that doesn't add up to me. I don't know. And as Green Bean said, like, I love Matt Stafford, but a team that's going to trade for him is a team that's a player away, like the Colts or the Saints or the Bears, someone like that who, they have a good roster, but they really need, that quarterback help. I just don't see it for, Detroit and Houston. I don't think it makes sense.
So I'll bring up a trade that I had rumored to me. That was just, there's no validity to it, but it's just an interesting trade. That was fun to talk about. The idea was Stafford to the Texans, Watson to the Jets, the number 2 pick to the Lions. So the idea is the Jets would give up some picks, the Lions would give up some picks to get the number 2 slot, and it would kind of all go around in such a way. I don't know the exact formula. Jets would be giving up the most likely. It's interesting nonetheless. But yeah, I agree. Look, I think Watson to Detroit doesn't make a ton of sense for me. I can't imagine Stafford really wants to go to Houston either. Like both locations seem like they're poised for a rebuild. So for me, Stafford to the 49ers, Stafford to the Colts, those two, Stafford to the to the Patriots, those all kind of make sense to me as landing spots for him. Watson, I think it's really coming down to Miami, the Jets, possibly the 49ers if he really puts his foot down and says, I'm only going to the 49ers, or he's staying in Texas as a Houston Texan. So that's my thoughts there. Dalmas Santana, thank you so much for the super chat. It's going to go to a great, great cause. Let me see. I had another one in here. Joe S. with the $2 super chat coming in said, RIP Danny, and the Jets need to get Watson. Danny, if you're looking over us, deliver us a Watson. we want a Deshaun Watson. We want a franchise quarterback, brother.
Right.
Let's see. I saw another one in here. What's up?
I'm sorry. No, go on. I don't. When you're done
I'm scrolling through the thing. You go for it.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I've been thanking those guys. I think a lot of people are rising to the occasion tonight. It's really cool to see guys in the chat doing that for what you're doing, Ryan.
It really means a lot. It really does. I'm like trying not to shed a tear here. It really does mean a lot.
Yeah. We
had Vincent coming in. It says $2 super chat for a hero. Thank you again, Vincent, so much. Mutt Vials, our good buddy Multivitamin, says RIP to the Mamba, number 24 GG, and number two GG, and Danny Pryle, rest in peace, rest in paradise. Block the outside noise and focus on what you can control. If Watson wants to come here, he will make it happen. If not, we get a quarterback in the draft. Love the panel. Multiples, thank you so much for the super chat. It really does mean a whole heck of a lot. And I can't agree more. As much as I want Watson, I don't want the Jets to go crazy hard at this and overextend themselves and just give away a ton of draft picks and a ton of, cap space and all this different stuff. I'd rather them kind of sit back. If he becomes available, hey, we'll make a pitch. We'll have our offer ready and on the table. But if you come out and you say, okay, hey Houston, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Let me go here. Let me do this again. Let me come back at you with another offer. It's gonna drive the price up. I mean, at the very least, we should be in it just to drive the price up for Miami. But I think as a Jet fan, it's just exciting because you have all these opportunities to add new pieces. So it could be Watson. It could be, trading down and rolling with Sam Darnold. It could be drafting a quarterback at number 2. There's a whole bunch of potential options for the New York Jets, and it's really exciting to kind of see regardless of how it sort of shakes out. Green Bean, what are your thoughts about kind of blocking out the outside noise, figure out if Watson wants to come here, and then making it happen?
Excuse me. Well, I think, let's look at it like this. Just a couple of months ago, we were literally dealing with that guy Shap saying the Jets don't deserve. They should change the whole fucking draft system so the team like the Jets can't get the first overall pick. That's what we were dealing with. And Steve Young and Roddy White, all that crap, all that noise. And now, just a few months later, we're literally talking about the Jets being one of the preferred landing spots for not only one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but other players are being rumored, like Allen Robinson, liking the stuff that has Watson going to the Jets. But so really right now we have this potential Watson trade. If that doesn't work, we have the number 2 overall pick. We have 2 firsts, 2 thirds. You know what I mean? We have 19 or 18 picks over the next couple of years. We have Sam Darnold to trade. That's plan B now. That was our plan A. That's plan B. Our plan C could consist of throwing a lesser pick package for Matt Stafford, keeping Sam Darnold, letting him be, or even drafting a Mac Jones or something. The options that we have right now, plans A, B, and C, are better and stronger and more legitimate than any plans we've had since 2010, since the last decade of football. Idzik, Mac, Bowles, Skinny Rex, the whole thing. This is the best position that we've been in that whole time. So that's really, we shouldn't lose sight of that, man. These are exciting times. And I think the noise is just that. Remember when, I don't know if you guys remember, but when we took Keyshawn Johnson with the first overall pick, the Jets put out a very thick smoke screen with Lawrence Phillips, the running back. There were reporters that caught him sneaking out of the back door of the Jets facility in Hempstead at 10 o'clock at night. They really put out the smoke that we weren't going to grab Keyshawn Johnson so we could, whatever. But so this is the time of year for that stuff. Rather than look at it as negatives and getting frustrated, enjoy it, man. This is fun. This is the fun stuff. We have real leadership. Let's trust them. We're going to be we're in good hands, man.
Matt, what are your thoughts on Watson wanting to come here and the Jets kind of holding out hope to sort of maybe not over pursue him?
Yeah, I mean, I think it totally makes sense when you look at the direction that the franchise has been going the last couple of weeks. It's really, and we talked about it last week, but it's honestly very telling to see that you go from Adam Gase and Dowell Loggins running the show on offense, and now you bring in a legitimate head coach, Robert Saleh, who has said that he really has no interest calling the plays on defense. He's going to hire a legit defensive coordinator so that he does that job. He has a legit offensive coordinator so he can do that job, and he's going to oversee everything. And he's well respected around the league. Douglas is well respected and well liked around the league. This is not the same old Jets where it's, the nonsense that we saw with Gase and McCagnon and all that nonsense. So I really do think this team is heading in the right direction. And I do think if you were to land a guy like Deshaun Watson, that would make the Jets an even more enticing landing spot because he would be able to recruit players. People are going to want to play with Watson.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think all that, makes a ton of sense. V-Man jumps in with a super chat saying, Matt, tell them about my goodbye Sam video, RIP Danny. Thank you so much, Vinny. Matt, what's he talking about?
He did a cover on the guitar for Sam Darnold. It was, oh my god, I'm blanking on the song. Sorry, B-man. I've been watching. It's perfect. It's the perfect song. If you could hop in the chat and remind me what the song is, because I'm blanking on it. I don't want to go back and replay it. But it's basically about moving on and going somewhere else and stuff like that. So it's the perfect goodbye for Sam Darnold, and I think that no expectations. There you go.
I like it.
Where do we find that?
I could.
Where do we see it?
He sent me the video on in a Twitter DM, so I could send it to you guys after.
Yeah,
Cool.
definitely send it to us. It's no expectations. It sounds just like the Jets seasons, like year in and year out, right? Like you have no expectations and you just can't break your heart. It's kind of what it is. Asylum Reaper, thank you so much for the super chat, helping the charity. Love all three of you. Ryan, I'm stoked for Sunday and Weapons Hot. Yes, that's right. I will be on Sunday on Weapons Hot. I don't have the text in front of me, but I'll be on that. So I'll let you guys know where and when to kind of find that out. I'll post it in the community tab when I have everything kind of in front of me.
It's a great show.
Let me see.
You guys are gonna love
Yeah,
it.
it's
Ryan's
really
gonna
good.
be
I'm pretty
great
sure
on it.
Green Bean, you were on it. What was it, last week?
A few weeks ago, maybe it was like right after It was the day Gase was fired.
Mm-hmm.
That day, I was on that day. It's a great show.
Great
You guys
time.
are gonna have a good time.
Great time to be on. Stevie, thank you so much for the super chat. Says Sack Exchange here. You guys do a great job. Deshaun will be a Jet. Too much smoke. These things take time. McCown was used for intel on Sam. So, Green Bean, I can see the tinfoil lined around your hat. What do you think about McCown being interviewed for the head coaching position in Houston? Because I've heard a lot of people, Rich Eisen specifically, was pretty upset that they went and interviewed McCown when there haven't been a whole lot of consideration to some minority candidates. Like McCown has never been a quarterback's coach or an offensive coordinator, and he's going all the way up top to a head coach. And I'm sitting there, I'm watching. I was like, oh, it's definitely got to be intel on Sam Darnold, I would think.
Yeah.
So Green Bean, why don't you talk to us a little bit about what you're feeling with that?
Well, I'll say this: if there ever was a white guy that walked on this planet of Earth, it is McCown. I mean, that guy's about as white. There's no debate on that. He's like, I'm American. No, you're not, buddy.
He's Wonder Bread.
Yeah, exactly. But I think and it's good to use him to make a point. Like last year it was Joe Judge, like never had an opportunity, and he kind of leapfrogged everybody. And it's important that they use these guys for that. But the truth with McCown is probably, and I talk about this as well on my podcast is long this week. It's like an hour and 10 minutes, and I just dig into all this shit. But so I was talking about that. I really do believe that McCown, even though he was the backup quarterback for the Texans for the second half of the year, they signed him off the Eagles practice squad mid-season. I think it was more likely about talking about Sam Darnold pre-Gase, because that's when McCown was there. We all know how Gase damaged him. We all know how Gase's offense is really inept, and he doesn't know how to use people and all that. So Sam could look really bad in that offense. So I think they probably wanted to talk to McCown about what Sam's really made of. Like he was there when we drafted him, and he was that guy's right hand, helping him out and everything through his rookie campaign. So I think if anyone knows the makeup of Sam Darnold in the NFL, it's probably McCown, realistically. So I think there's a lot of legitimate possibility there. Obviously we don't know, but I don't think they were really interviewing for the head coach. I mean, how could that possibly be? He's never coached for a second in his life other than being a supportive quarterback on the sideline. So I think that makes more sense than he's a legitimate candidate for the NFL head coaching job in Houston,
Matt, what are your thoughts on the whole McCown interviewing for the head coaching job? Do you think it was a serious interview for a head coach, or do you think it was possibly trying to get intel on Sam Darnold?
I'm going to have to go tinfoil hat there, because there's no way you could really interview him seriously. Like, he was on their practice squad this year. No? How the hell is he going to go from practice squad quarterback to head coach? That's
Right.
if you want to hire him as a quarterback coach, I have no issue with that at all. Like that makes sense. I could absolutely see him as a quarterback coach and maybe one day a head coach. Absolutely. But to go from the practice squad to head coach overnight, that's insane. And I could understand why guys like Rich Eisen are going to be upset when Eric Bieniemy is about to get passed over on his third straight season when, Josh McCown's getting interviews and stuff like that. It's a little frustrating. So I understand the anger there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. It's got to be tinfoil hat. It has to.
Right,
there's no reasonable way. Like I like McCown a lot. Would love him as our quarterbacks coach, but there's no way there's anything but intel on Sam that they're trying to get from here. Greenbean, what were you trying to get at?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and it's important for guys like Rich Eisen to take that opportunity and use their platform to point something out like that. But I mean, I respect when guys are going to do that. Like they're going to point out, look, McCown is absolutely not deserving of a head coaching job, and then use that to point out the minorities that are being overlooked. So I think that I actually respect that and support that. I really do. But again, I think if you just look a little bit deeper, I think what we're talking about is probably more likely the case.
Mike Parlato, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, no shot Quinnen should be involved in a Deshaun Watson trade. So yeah, there's been rumors thrown around that Quentin Williams could be thrown into a trade. It was John McClain from Houston. I believe it was the Houston Chronicle. I could be wrong on the name of the paper. Speculated that the Jets would be giving up the Jets' first and second round picks this year, next year, and Quentin Williams to get Deshaun Watson. And I put the video out today, and we were talking about it a little bit, and it was a little ambiguous. I don't know if he was necessarily talking about both first round picks or, just one first round pick each year and then 2 second round picks. But regardless of what it was, Quentin Williams, I don't like the idea of adding Quentin Williams in on a trade unless it's taking the spot of a first round pick that we would have otherwise had to give up. I think the upside for Quentin Williams is astronomically high, especially in a Robert Saleh defense. I think the motivation is going to be huge. He took a huge leap in year 2. So I agree. I do not want Quentin Williams as a part of any trade. Matt, what are your thoughts with Quentin Williams possibly being included in any sort of trade for Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, I would really like to avoid that. I think I'm all good with just picks. Now, there are obviously exceptions to the rule here. If you could move Quentin Williams and maybe it's a first and a second in Quentin Williams, then okay, of course, yeah, I'm doing that. But it would have to be rare circumstances for me to want to move him in a trade. It doesn't make sense with the amount of draft capital the Jets have. Just take your pick from that over the next 2 or 3 years,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Greenbean, what are your thoughts about Quinnen being involved in any sort of trade for Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, I agree. I mean and that's why I said that in the very beginning. I mean, this is really not a story. It's not even a rumor. It's just a thought that a guy had. That's it. Quentin Williams was the 3rd overall pick and has steadily improved. He had 8 sacks last year, and that was I think he missed 2 games if I remember correctly. So he had 8 sacks in 14 games. And he's on the upswing. So he's a guy, if you're going to factor him in, I would absolutely demand that he get number 3 overall pick value. So now you're talking about he takes a bunch of picks off the table. So if it's 1 first and Quinnen, okay. That's how ridiculous it would have to be. Other than that, you don't get rid of young superstars in the making like that. And defensive tackles, when you have a good one, you keep them, man. And Quinnen is exactly that. I don't think there's any foundation for this one. It's just a guy talking.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he's just, just yelling stuff out. Old guy yells at clouds or whatever. TJ Decker, thank you, brother, so much for the super chat. He says Douglas has to get Watson. I think he has to make sure Watson doesn't go to Miami. I think that maybe that's how I sort of spin it. I don't think he necessarily has to get Watson. I would love it. I'd probably lose my mind. I think you'll see a live stream of just pounding beers, shotgun to be oh, it happened, no friggin' way. Oh my God. Oh geez. Ryan Schwinger, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, sorry for your loss, Ryan. Tough to lose a fellow Jets fan and tougher to lose a true American. Love you guys. Love spending my Tuesday nights with all of you. Can't wait until we celebrate our February victory. Now, we want free agents. We want quarterbacks. We want everything. But, guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ryan. That is absolutely awesome. It's going to an absolutely great cause. We don't want to celebrate off-season victories. I want to get an in-season victory, but at the very least, maybe getting Watson and then some free agents and then a few draft picks. Like, I'll be feeling good. I'll be feeling confident. The first time I'll be feeling real confident in a pretty long time being a Jets fan. Green Bean, what are your thoughts on celebrating a victory too early in February?
Shit, if there's anything wrong with it, I'm in big trouble because that's all I seem to be able to do as a Jets fan.
It's the only thing Jet fans can do. It's been brutal,
man. It all started with the first year of free agency when we signed Boomer Esiason, Leonard Marshall, Ronnie Lott. We were all over that shit. But let me say this. Let me just pull off for a second. There's a gentleman in the chat, Mateo Morales, who's asked a few times if we are doing a giveaway. It's very important to him, it seems. So I didn't have the answer. So I just wanted to make sure I brought it up. So I don't know what we're doing, but you guys can answer that.
For the giveaway, I think tonight we'll donate whatever would have been given away as the gift to the charity. I think I'm gonna forego giving out something for tonight. I think you guys will be all right with that. So there's that answer. Matt, What are your thoughts on celebrating in February for a victory too soon?
That was yourself included, but me as well with Le'Veon Bell just a couple of years ago. Like we were doing the same thing. Like it happens, man. It's that's what Jets fans do. We get excited, we get attached to these things and these ideas, and we say, oh, this is going to be great. We get all excited about the off seasons, and sometimes it doesn't work out, most of the time, but sometimes it does. So it's going to be a patient approach, obviously, but I think there is reason to be excited right now if you're a Jets fan. The fact that they're realistically in on all of these things is really cool, and they're in a good position. Like even if they don't get Deshaun Watson, let's say, you still have the number 2 pick and have your choice at 2 really good prospects in Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. Or if you really do believe in Sam Darnold, then you could trade out of the 2 pick to a team like Houston, potentially, if they're looking for a quarterback, or a team like the Lions, who might be looking for a quarterback, and get a buttload of draft picks. So it's really a win-win scenario.
Mike Santumoro, thank you so much for the super chat. Jets Nation rises to the occasion, fellas. Thank you so much for that super chat. Deshaun will make it happen. My dad was 13 for Super Bowl III. He's 65. I'm 25. I just want one. It's been 50 years since the Jets have had a Super Bowl, and we want our franchise quarterback. We want a guy that we could depend on week in and week out. And with a horrible team over in Houston, Deshaun Watson was able to put together one of the best quarterback seasons of any quarterback ever. So I agree, we have to get just one. I want one. I'm young. There's guys that are way older than all of us that are just like, oh man, I've been around way longer. I haven't seen a Super Bowl. So I want all of us to embrace this and be excited, because this would be a huge move for the New York Jets. I guess Green Bean, any stories as to why I shouldn't say why, but we're waiting all these years for a Super Bowl. Any type of advice you could put out there for anyone that's holding out hope?
What was Super Bowl III like, Green Bean?
I know. Well, you know what's funny? It's not that far from the truth, right? So now, in complete truth here, I was born 2 years after the Super Bowl that we won, so I don't remember. But the thing is this, I remember it's weird, I have this specific memory of being at this pool in the summer talking about football. I was young, and I remember we counted the years, and when I became a Jets fan, Joe Namath was a Jet 6-7 years before that. That's really where I was. That's how long ago I was a fan. It was only 13 years since the Jets won Super Bowl III. That's when I became a fan, dude. That's how long I've been doing this, waiting, hoping, yelling, rooting, paying money. That's how long this has been. It was only 13 years after Super Bowl III when I put on my first Jets hat. You know what I mean? So yeah, and Namath was still there. Like I remember saying, he hasn't even been gone a decade yet. Like that's how fucking old I am. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. I think you can look at it though, man. Like the Jets have had essentially non-football people running a football operation for more years than not. You know what I mean? So the fact that Joe Douglas is here, just look at his moves, dude. He's only been here 18 months. He cleaned out the Le'Veon Bell, the Quincy Enunwa, the Tremaine Johnson, the Darrell Roberts, he cleaned all that out, got us 4 first-round picks over the next 2 years. 2/3. He has 8 5ths and 6ths over the next 2 years. Like this guy, if you're not happy with what he's done in the last less than 2 years, you're not paying attention. If you can't see the difference between McCagnon, Idzik, even Tannenbaum and Terry Bradway, these guys were schleps, dude. They never should have been in the position. So we're there, man. We're there. It just looks and feels different. And like I just said, I've been around a long ass time, man. So it's different. I can promise you that.
The Pussy Assassin. Thank you so much for the super chat. He says, if you guys could take one player from each of the offense and defense of our AFC championship teams to help our young guns, who would they be? Ooh, that's a good question. Offense, I'm going to say, it's got to be offensive line, I would think. I would probably take Faneca if I had to pick an offensive lineman, just because we need some guard help pretty bad. Defensive-wise, it's got to be Revis, I would think. Greenby, what about you? What do you think? Offense, defense, our AFC championship games, who would you take?
I would really like some Nick Mangold. I think he would be really, really great. And Revis. Not fat, loser, lazy Revis. 2009, 2010 Revis. I mean, come on, dude. He was a joy to watch. Shutting down. Remember that year, 2009? I mean, what was it? Andre, what the hell's his name? Jackson, I want to say.
Johnson.
No, the receiver.
Andre Johnson.
Yeah, Andre Johnson. Like, it was Ocho Cinco, Andre Johnson, Terrell Owens, Randy Moss, Reggie Wayne. Like, nobody had more than like 15 yards on Revis. It was an unbelievable thing to behold. And so I would take Revis and then Mangold all day long. He was another one, man. He was fucking good, dude.
Matt, what about you? Offense, defense, who are you taking?
Yeah, I'm with Greenbean on both of these ones. I'm taking the center and moving McGovern over to guard. And then it has to be Revis on the defensive side of the ball. Prime Revis, I don't think I've seen a Jet more dominant in my life watching this team than 2009 and 2010 Darrelle Revis. He was absolutely unbelievable. The opposing wide receiver didn't have a chance, and you knew he was going to shut them down. And in 2010, I mean, we got to give credit to Cromartie on the other side. He held his own too in his first stint with the Jets. Second stint in 2015, not so much like Darrelle Revis too.
Yeah, I think Revis was just so incredible. I think it's hands down the move you'd have to make. Sam Roche, thank you so much for the super chat. Lots of love, Ryan. You're a great dude. Matt and Bean are pretty cool too. Yeah, I would say these guys are pretty legit. I thoroughly enjoy working with them. Marty Thompson, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, Aussie Jet in the house. I believe in cornerbacks, Surtain, Farley, Horn, likely to go in the first round. Would you take one at number 23, or would you take Vera Tucker, offensive lineman? Matt, I'll throw it to you first. What do you think of the cornerbacks, and would you take one at number 23?
I'm not opposed to going corner at 23. I love Vera Tucker, though. I like that he can play either tackle or guard. And I think he makes a seamless transition to guard in the NFL. So to me, that's your plug and play right guard. and you're doing anything you can to bring Joe Thuney here in free agency, and then your line is set. So I think that would be my play. I think I'd wait to pick 34 before I go on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm really a big proponent of going interior offensive line early in this draft. So I think I'd go Vera Tucker.
Green Bean, your thoughts? What do you think about cornerback at 23?
Yeah, it's fun. I think we were just chatting about this a few minutes ago. I think right before we started, maybe. But I would actually prefer edge over cornerback. Like it goes like this. Like, you have to pay attention to how the draft is falling, right? So if you're at pick 23 and like Rousseau, Basham, Patrick Jones, all those guys are gone, and Horn and those guys are still on the board, then you got to go cornerback, because if you're going D, because though that's higher rated at that position are still there. But I think if all things are equal, like if Patrick Jones is there looking at Horn, like, I'm choosing edge every time, especially for us right now, because we don't have one. And we haven't had one. I lean more towards edge helping cornerbacks as opposed to having no pass rush and cornerbacks that are locked down. You can have a little bit lesser cornerback if you have the pass rush. You know what I mean? So that's the way I would go. I'm not against taking a cornerback, but it's probably third or fourth. And in this particular question, I would go Vera Tucker, all day over a cornerback there.
I really like the idea of going edge. I think the Jets need an edge in the worst way. Would I hate corner at 23? No. I think there's going to be some really nice options available at 34 also for corner. I don't know so much about edge, but I don't want to say they're interchangeable for me, because I think we need both. But I think edge, more than anything else, is going to help this defense significantly. Kyle Orms, I don't see anything attached as a question or anything like that, but thank you so much for donating. It's going to go to a great cause. Eddie Obas says, RIP, much love to you three. Jets Nation got each other's backs always. It's goddamn amazing to be in a current position. Keep it up, guys. Guys, thank you so much. It really, really does mean a lot. Jimmy Donahue, sorry if I screwed that up. I would only give up Quinnen if we can keep the second overall pick. Ooh, that's an interesting thought process, because if you think, like Green Bean said, with Quinnen being worth the number 3 overall pick as of just 2 years ago, he's a proven player. Can we at least, avoid giving up the second pick? Now, I don't think that's really an option, because I think the Texans want to get that quarterback. And I think number 2 overall is involved in that. But that's an interesting thought process. Matt, what do you think? Instead of giving up number 2, giving them Quentin Williams, do you think there's any shot that happens?
I would be really surprised, because I think if they're moving on from Deshaun Watson, that they're going to want that number 2 pick to take their own quarterback. Like, that's why I don't think a scenario with Sam Darnold in the trade makes sense either, because I don't think they're going to want to take a reclamation project. I think they're going to want to take their own guy at 2, whether it's Fields or Wilson, or maybe Lance, who the hell knows. But I don't see them going that route.
Green Bean, what do you think about swapping out Quentin Williams for the number 2 pick for Quentin Williams in a trade?
Well, I'll tell you this, I would do it. Like, if that's what it boiled down to, like, it was like, you can have Watson for either the number 2 overall pick or Quentin Williams, I would choose retaining the second overall pick, because I could trade down. I could do so much with that. But I actually agree with Matt. I don't think that's what they're looking for. They're not trading Watson for a defensive tackle. It's just, McCagnon did come from the Texans, so who the fuck knows? Maybe that's where he learned all this horse shit. I don't know, but I just don't see that being realistic. I think, and then I really do agree. Like, even though for my 10 o'clock mock last night, we made a trade scenario to base the draft on, and Sam Darnold was in that package, I don't think it's actually realistic that if they want the number 2 pick, the second overall pick, that they also, Sam Darnold's not going to make sense and have any real value to the draft pack, the trade package. So I think they're going to be looking for a quarterback.
Yeah, that's kind of where I fall as well on that. John Nolte, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, for our fallen American hero. It really is going to a great cause, so thank you guys so much for that. Anthony Vitorito, prayers with his family and loved ones. Stay strong, Ryan. Didn't Alex Smith get traded in Super Bowl week or something like that? Could trades be agreed upon but not finalized? Yes, Alex Smith was traded January 30th. Was that 2 years ago? 3 years ago now? So trades can happen. It's just agreed upon in principle. I don't know how that works if a team wanted to go back or if you wanted to, like, have another team offer more than him. Could they go back on that trade? I don't exactly know. Matt, any thought process on, if a trade happens prior to the start of free agency, or do you think we wait until it actually happens in free agency?
No, honestly, I think if he really forces his hand, this is something that could happen soon. I wouldn't be surprised if it did. To be honest with you, the way that things are going, like, I just don't think there's going to be a rumor we're going to talk about for another month and a half. Like, I think if something is going to happen here, it's going to be in the next week or so.
Yeah, I completely agree. Green Bean, what do you think about Watson possibly getting traded as when free agency starts or somewhere around that time frame?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I'm actually a little bit nervous to trade for Watson pre-draft because of that very slim likelihood that the Jaguars take Justin Fields or something and Trevor Lawrence is sitting there for one pick. So that would really suck to do all this trade for Watson and then Lawrence could have been ours and then the Texans take him and all that. That would really bother me. But I just like Matt said, I think that this one is not just going to stay on the back burner for the whole off season because it's January still. So the February, March. Well, then league year is March 17th. When does free agency start? Do you guys have those dates? Is it March 17th?
I think free agency starts the 17th.
It's right around.
I think it's March 17th. I think it's St. Patty's Day, which actually, oddly enough, turns out to be 3 years to the day that the Jets traded up from number 6 to number 3 to earn the right to select Sam Darnold eventually. So a little interesting tidbit there.
So it's a good day for us to trade. So I don't know. That's a month and a half. It's not that bad, I guess. But why wait till free agency to do? It doesn't really have any bearing on draft picks. You know what I mean? Although it does clear up money from them, so maybe they could actually make some moves in free agency. So that would have some weight. I think it probably happens before that.
So it's a little interesting. They actually don't clear any space for free agents this year. They actually lose an additional $5 million in cap space because of the signing bonus that was just signed because they're getting slammed with all that all hitting at once. So his cap hit was only going to be $15 million this year. If they trade him, his cap hit winds up being $20 million because you got to think $5 million over the course of the last 4 years get accelerated to hit this cap. So it's a little weird, but I think before free agency is when this is going to happen because that's the benefit if you're the Jets. You can attract more free agents or anyone trading for Watson. Like I would imagine Allen Robinson would probably kind of, I don't want to say wait, but I think free agents might pause just a little bit to see where guys kind of go, specifically Watson. I don't know. So we'll see. Anything more to add to that?
No. I just don't see why they would wait. I mean, like, obviously there's going to be negotiating, right? So there's going to be a little of that. That takes time, especially when two sides are trying to get the best deal they can. But I don't know. I just don't see it taking that long. I'd be surprised.
Stevie, thank you so much for the super chat. Says Leslie Frazier will be the next head coach of the Texans. Eric Bieniemy not interested as he knows Deshaun is leaving. Shout out to Green Bean. That was kind of my thought. I think at least if they hire Leslie Frazier, then that sort of gives them the disguise of like, oh well, we were just waiting for him to get out of the playoffs. We couldn't interview him right away. The Bieniemy thing, like, it's an issue, but we weren't really high on him. But this other, minority head coach, this is someone that we're kind of in our corner. Now, Bieniemy has already said he didn't want, or at least the rumors were he didn't want the Houston job, which is weird because like now you interview for it and last job, it's going to look a little goofy, I think. I don't know how a new head coach goes in there knowing you're either having a really pissed off Deshaun Watson, or you have a no Deshaun Watson. I don't know which one's worse. So Matt, I'll throw it to you first. Do you think Leslie Frazier is the next head coach of the Texans, and what do you think about Watson?
Yeah, I don't know if any coach that they hire is going to save this relationship at this point. It might be too far gone. He moves the needle a little bit. I think he's did a nice job with the Bills the last couple of years. I don't think it's going to be enough though, and he's going into a bad spot. Like that team has very little draft capital. If they flip Deshaun Watson, they get a little bit more, but they're still in cap hell. It's going to be a little bit of a rebuild there, which I feel bad because things were looking up for them when they had Deshaun Watson and were playing good football. They were up just last year big at the half against the Chiefs in the divisional round, and now they have fallen so far from that. And it sucks for them, but I think they are going to have to retool a little bit here. And I don't know if I was looking to become an NFL head coach, I don't know if I would necessarily be looking to go to Houston to figure things out.
Green Bean, what are your thoughts on Leslie Frazier being the next head coach of the Texans potentially?
Well, the first thing I'll say is Leslie Frazier's resume is solid. I mean, he's a good coach. But I think where the Houston Texans are right now, they're not like, this is what we feared for the Jets, like not being able to get top candidates. Like they're on like the second or third rung of guys that could really turn the franchise around. I mean, Leslie Frazier is a good coach, but he's not that kind of guy that excites. You know what I mean? He's just a good coach. I mean, he might be very successful there. I'm not saying that, but I think they're really looking at a situation where you either, like you said, you have a disgruntled Deshaun Watson, no first, no second, and $30 million over the cap when you add in the draft picks, right? So you have nowhere to go. So this is a very, it lacks desirability for any coach. So anybody they're getting, it's like Buffalo years past, like they could only get like the second and third tier guys because nobody wanted to go there. So obviously there's only 32 NFL head coaching jobs. So somebody's going to take it. But anybody that's worth a shit, like they're going to go, this isn't the one. They're going to get guys that don't have opportunities elsewhere. It's their one shot to get a head coaching job. So I think Leslie Frazier is good, but yeah, dude, that's a terrible situation. And they got to like give him a long time. Or else they'll be gone starting over in a year or two.
I completely agree. Mutt Viles, thank you so much for the super chat. Incredible. Dropping in with $100 donation for Danny. Says, RIP for a soldier, a man, a friend, a father. A true American hero. Sorry.
Not so bad.
If one of you guys could finish that.
Yeah. Well, look, man, I think, again, I'll just say that the chat, while they're always supportive and they're always fun and cool, like tonight, they're blowing my doors off. I mean, there's a couple really large super chats, and the monetary numeric part of the donation aside, I'm just blown away with you guys. I think you're really crushing it tonight, and it's the perfect opportunity to do so. And it just shows why, you hear me talk about Jets fans and their worth all the time, and you're you're showing us exactly your worth. And I really do appreciate supporting what Ryan's going through. Because this shit's tough, man. And it's like, we need to pull together. So thank you to everybody, truly.
Yeah, no,
Ryan, you're good, man.
Yeah, honestly, don't worry about it. I'm Green Bean said it. I'm blown away by the chat tonight. Awesome stuff. Jet fans are the absolute best, and you're right. We're all in this together. It's really it's a nice thing to see. I'm stunned. It's really nice. Mother Viles says DJ did a mock and have us getting Wilson and ETN. Also, Mel Kiper has us getting Smith and JC Horn. I don't know about you guys. I definitely prefer option 1 in that. Even though I'm kind of anti going running back in the first round, I just can't get behind taking a wide receiver at 2. Like, if you want to trade back, more than okay with that. But taking one at 2, that seems to be a mistake for me.
Yeah, the Daniel Jeremiah side. And one thing to pay attention with Daniel Jeremiah, his first mock last year had a had us taking Mekhi Becton. He's really close with Joe Douglas, so you kind of keep an eye on it. It's like, okay, he's taking Wilson, now he's taking ETN. I would definitely prefer that. I, like Matt, definitely don't really love the idea of going running back in the first round, but I do not condone taking Devontae Smith at 2 unless we're trading down, and I would prefer us not go with Sam Darnold. Green Bean, your thoughts?
I'm gonna shoot real straight. I didn't hear you. I wasn't ready, but yeah, I don't know what we're talking about. I'm sorry.
So,
I was
what are your
commenting
thoughts?
to chat people.
Wilson, ETN from Daniel Jeremiah, or Devontae Smith and J.C. Horn from Mel Kiper?
If I had to pick one, I would probably pick, the Smith Horn, but I wouldn't do either one of those. Like Matt said, it's silliness. Like you do not have to do that. You don't take a wide receiver in our particular situation at 2. Like, remember what I said? Like, the Jets, even though we've sucked for a long time, we haven't had a pick this high since 1997. All right, so that's how long it's been since we've been in this position. It's not that easy to get to. And we know how to suck, and we still can't get this high. So you don't blow that. With all respect to Devonta Smith, you just don't do that. So, and then cornerback at 23, like I said, I would probably prefer edge. But if I had to pick one, I mean, those are some solid ass players right there. But who's going to throw him the ball? Who's going to chase the quarterback? So I think that's a tough one to really buy. I don't know what the hell Kuiper's thinking. I think Kuiper's might be on his way out. That's what I think. I don't know. Fucking Kuiper. Dude, been doing this too long, dude.
Kuiper's been ridiculous. he's off his rocker with us taking Smith. Full says, check your email. Would love to bring this up tonight or another day. All right. So he says, too long for the YouTube comments, but I would love your opinion on this. Much love from a Norwegian Jet fan. So awesome. I'll add that up to the big board there. Here we go. He says, let's say we do not draft the quarterback with number 2. With the number 2 alone is worth at least 2 or 3 number 1s, depending on which team picks they hold. We are talking about. So when we possibly discuss the Texans, we should not pay more than number 2 and another first rounder, maybe a second day pick, not more. Texans would have the opportunity to replace Watson with Fields or Wilson. If we pay 3 first rounders or more, it should be both Seattle picks and our first rounder next year. So you guys, Matt, I'll throw it to you first. What are your thoughts on the number 2 pick being worth as much as it is? Because we've seen the trade value chart, and I want to say it's something along the lines of like 4 first round picks, like if they were all 32. So there's value in that number 2 over pick. So I get what he's trying to say here. Mm-hmm. I think you kind of have to include number 2 because it's the quarterback that's so valuable to them. But Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree 100% with what you just said there. The number 2 pick is extremely valuable. And a part of me does understand the hesitancy to give that up. But I think what we have to keep in mind here is the package that we're offering, and the reason why it's only, and I'm using the word only, I mean, it's in a serious way, but it kind of sounds crazy when I'm going to say only 3 first round picks, because if you don't have the number 2 pick, and let's say you're picking at 28, like what value is it to trade for Deshaun Watson with the 28th round or 28th, overall pick this year, another mid-20s pick next year, another mid-20s pick the year after that, and so on and so forth. So that's all part of this, I think, the number 2 overall pick. And I get it, but at the same time, like, you're hoping to get a franchise quarterback at number 2. Deshaun Watson's a franchise quarterback at 2, and he's only 25. It's not like he's, 35 years old and on the last leg here.
I completely agree. Green Bean, what are your thoughts on the value of the number 2 pick and what that could mean in a trade?
Yeah, well, and the thing is that we just like when we're talking about this, it's from our perspective, right? So it's like you have to bring your value to the negotiating table. So let's take a look at just to give you even deeper perspective on how valuable the number two pick is that when we're talking about our main competition being Miami, the Miami Dolphins, they're sitting at pick number three. There's a 400-point differential between two and three. 400 points literally is pick 50. So just that one spot, the difference is in order for Miami to have the same value in the trade, they got to add a second round pick, 50 or above, to even get to where we are. So we just have to make sure that we're jamming that home. Like, look, I'm going to give you this pick because I know you want a quarterback. But if I give you this, I'm not giving you two other firsts and a second and all. Like that pick is incredibly valuable. And then if they say, well, we want more picks, then you jump off of pick two and you can say, okay, well, then I'll give you both Seattle picks and my other pick next year, whatever it is. And then we'll give you three, but I'm staying at two. If it's two, then it's going to be one first in addition and a second or a third or whatever. And I think once you really drive home that your understanding of the value of the second overall pick, then they know where they're getting, where they really stand. And this idea that we're giving them 4 firsts, 2 seconds, fucking Quentin Williams and all that. It's like, dude, there's no way the value, it doesn't weigh out. Nobody's worth 4 picks and a star defensive tackle. It's just, so I think Watson is incredibly valuable. And like Matt said, the number 2 pick is, you hope to get Watson at the number 2 pick. So that's all part of it. But as far as our value at the negotiating table, we need to make sure that we consistently let them know that we understand how valuable that pick is. And that's what's going to help us to drop the price. I still think it's not going to be anywhere near as high as people are thinking.
That would be fantastic. I mean, I'm so bad with trades at this point because I didn't think the Jets were getting Leonard Williams like to the Giants for a third and a fifth or a third and a fourth. I didn't think the Jets were getting 2 firsts and a third and a player for Adams. So me overshooting the value of Watson, just in line with the status quo. Like just in line there. Chris Bucco, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, if no Watson, give me Wilson, Kadarius, Tony, and Pat Freiermuth. Let's score touchdowns and win games. What are your thoughts, Green Bean? I'll throw it to you first. Wilson, Kadarius, Tony, and Freiermuth.
Yeah. Now, it's funny, man. Like we did the 10 o'clock mock last night, and you guys know how I feel about my tight ends, especially Kyle Pitts, Freiermuth, and Brevin Jordan and those guys. But last night, it wasn't just me. We voted, and Pat Freiermuth ended up being our first. We traded back to 30, and that's who we took. So, and I think that's a great move, man. Like when you look at a guy, I know it's funny. Like I do understand, but it's like when you look at a special tight end that's in the same sphere as Kelsey or Kittle or Antonio Gates, and those guys are game changers. And so somebody like Freiermuth, and then if you get Freiermuth going with the Kadarius Tony that guy's electric. It's the only word I keep using for him, but I just love him. Now I wouldn't take him over Jamar Chase or Bateman or Devontae Smith, but at the same time, Kadarius Tony is going to be a fantastic receiver to go with Mims and Freiermuth, if that's what you're talking about. So you think Watson with Mims, Crowder, Freiermuth, Kadarius Tony? Dude, now we're talking, man. If you give that guy time, we're going to light the league on fire this year. So I think it would be great. I doubt that's what happens, but I would be in full support of that move.
Matt, what are your thoughts on Wilson, Kadarius Tony, and Freiermuth?
It would be fun. Like, can we score some freaking points? Like, a part of me is like, let's count a second and worry about edge and corner. But at the same time, like, that's the thing, like with the Wilson and ETN mock, like I read that and my brain initially goes, fuck yeah, let's have some fun. And then after that, like, wait, Matt, no, you've made it very clear you don't want to take a running back in the first round. But then the other devil on my shoulder is going, no, we want to score points. We want a top 10 offense and all that stuff. So it's a very difficult back and forth that's going on in my head, but it would be fun. Sure. Why not?
Yeah. Oh man, if you could get ETN, that's the biggest thing. It's like I don't want a running back in the first round, but if you could get one, it's pretty friggin' cool. It's super exciting. Fryermuth, I've been watching some of his highlights because Green Bean has been talking him up a wall, and he is very impressive. I would have no problems if the Jets decided to pull that out as the 34th pick out over there. Joe Henson, thank you so much for the super chat. Says after missing out on Lawrence, I'm trying not to get my hopes up on Watson. Joe Douglas has put us in a damn good spot either way. Thoughts and prayers. 100%. What are our thoughts on missing out on Lawrence? Are we upset? I mean, I guess even just trying to get Watson, in terms of getting our hopes up, what do we think about this? Matt, I'll throw it to you.
I mean, if losing out on Trevor Lawrence leads us to Deshaun Watson, that definitely eases the pain. But even so, let's take Deshaun Watson out of the equation for half a second here. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence, that's the dream right there. But are we just going to ignore that there's two other really good quarterback prospects in this draft sitting there at 2, or the opportunity to trade back if you like Sam Darnold and get even more draft picks on top of that? There's a few really good options for Joe Douglas to do, including the Watson one, obviously. So while obviously I'm upset about losing a guy like Trevor Lawrence, it's exciting to see that there's so many positive routes the Jets can go this offseason.
Green Bean, what are your thoughts on losing out on Trevor Lawrence, not getting our hopes up for Watson? How are you feeling about that?
Well, the loss of Trevor Lawrence, it's just a part of the Gase era. You know what I mean? That's the final disappointment of the Adam Gase years as a Jets fan. It's part of it. That raising our hopes. We were 0-13, whatever it was, 0-12, and then we lose him. So, I mean, I've gotten over that. It still sucks. And I am nervous that the Jaguars are going to take Fields and not Trevor Lawrence, and then we make this big trade and we could have had him. That's gonna mess with me. At the same time, I think it's unlikely, and you have to play the odds. You know what I mean? Anything can happen at any given day, but you got to play the odds. And I think the odds are Trevor Lawrence is just unreachable at this point, and it is what it is. You got to move on.
Yeah, I'm trying not to get my hopes up for Watson. I'm trying to stay grounded and be like, okay, well, at least the nice thing is if we don't get Watson, we still could get Wilson. We could still get Fields. We could trade down and get Darnold. We have plenty of good options either way. If we get Watson, I'm going to lose my cool. I'm absolutely going to lose my shit. It would be absolutely fantastic. But again, I'm trying to stay as grounded as I can. Jeffrey Conover, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, my son is in the Army, so I know the sacrifice that these young men and women make to their and their families make every day. Protecting our great country. Go Jets. Jeffrey, thank you so much. It's going to go to a really, really good cause. Angel Sosa says, you guys are great. Love watching the channel. Sorry for your loss. Should we draft a tight end, address it in free agency, or stick with what we have? Green Bean, you're our tight end aficionado, so let's go to you first. What do you think about the Jets and the tight end position?
Well, I think one of the things that we have to, and Ryan keeps talking about this, and I happen to agree with it. Chris Herndon is a talented young man. He's still under his rookie contract, and I absolutely don't think that we should move on. He's probably top 1 or 2 players that stand to benefit after the Gase era. He falls into that category. We know a lot of players, Devontae Parker, Jay Ajayi, obviously Ryan Tannehill, and there are others that did very well once they were no longer with Gase. So I think Herndon absolutely has that potential, and he's a good player. That all said, I don't think we should depend on him. And I'm really still high on Wesco. I think he's been absolutely misused. He's a fantastic blocker, but his hands and running ability, yards after the catch, are much more impactful than we've been giving him credit. It's Gase just kind of categorizes guys like Bell. Bell, he's not a good runner for me, so he doesn't give him the ball. He runs him up the damn A gap. So I think Wesco also falls in that category. So I think we're a little bit better in tight ends than we think. At the same time, I think Griffin and Brown need to go. So I would like to see a tight end brought in. I would love Fryermuth, but the truth is, I think it's probably more realistic that we can get Ruckert in the 3rd. you know what I mean? Something like that. And we'd be very happy with him too. So I think they should, but I don't know if they will.
Matt, what are your thoughts on tight end?
I still am a really big Chris Herndon fan. I am excited to see him in a legitimate offense and a Mike LaFleur offense on top of that. With Ryan Griffin, with his injury, I don't know if he's ever going to be at the point where he can, play at a consistent level anymore. I'm really not so sure about that. So I think they end up moving on from him, and then maybe they go with a veteran tight end at that point to pair with a guy like Chris Herndon or a mid-round draft guy as well. Hey.
Oh, hello.
I think you're muted. I can't hear you.
Yeah, I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't hear you a second ago either, Matt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, he muted himself. Hi, I'm Becca. So I'm going to sit in for Ryan. He's going to take a few minutes. So we'll see what you guys are up to.
Hi, Becca.
Hi.
Hey, Becca.
So I have absolutely no idea how to work this contraption that Ryan has over here. You should see what he has going on. It's
I know.
Wild.
I've often said that. Like, I wonder what it really looks like from Ryan's point of view.
You have no idea. There's like screens on. He has double monitors, the microphones, the cameras up there, and the screens are full of like things just like binging all over the place.
Right. He's probably got like beakers and bubbling cauldrons
and
all that kind of stuff.
Little bars that if I play with them, I may screw something up.
Right. It's like that. Like if you touch one button, we're all going to go dark. Yeah, it's all going to go down. Yeah. So, as far as the tight ends go, just to continue, I see the chat also kind of taking that, and running with it. I really think, like Matt said, Chris Herndon has a lot of potential. We saw that. But again, I just think depending on him would be the wrong way to go. Like, don't forget, he also has an injury history. He also got suspended for PED violations. So there's a lot to the Chris Herndon stew. And I think bringing someone in to just let him know that he's on alert at minimum would be very, very smart. And bring in a young guy, because guys like Griffin, I think that experiment is probably done. And I think that also Brown is just kind of like he's just a 4-string tight end. You know what I mean? I don't think there's anything really valuable to him that you wouldn't cut him for a rookie. So I think that bringing in a young one, no matter how you slice it, would probably be a good idea.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I don't mind taking one in maybe like round 4, round 5. I just think with the number of needs this team has still at the tight end position that, I don't know. I find it hard to. It also depends on how the board falls. Like, that's such a green bean thing, right? Too. Like, it all depends on how the board falls. Mm-hmm. True. Maybe there is a scenario in which I could feel comfortable taking a tight end earlier, but with the amount of needs on this team, that's where I have the hard time doing it a little bit earlier in the draft.
Yeah, makes sense. But if you look at it through like the pass catcher realm. Like we can definitely sign on for the idea that we need another wide receiver. So it's like almost without question. So if a tight end comes in and fills that role and also adds protection, like that's kind of how I look at the tight end. Very similar to like when Le'Veon Bell a few years ago when he held out that year, he was trying to say that his position is more than a running back. Like he's actually a hybrid wide receiver running back. I think that I look at tight ends more in that capacity. Like they're big wide receivers that also block. So, but I hear you, man. And I think that, like, again, I really think that tight end's not on our priority list. So it's like anywhere from the 3rd to the 6th, that's where we're going to see a tight end if we do. 2nd, 3rd to the 6th round.
Yeah, tight end for me is an interesting spot, and Green Bean brought it up before. I really like Herndon, and I would like to see him in a new offense. I'm not opposed to going tight end in the draft because they might want to like replicate what they had in San Francisco. So I could get on board with it, I guess, but I think it's a position that's worth running it back one more time next year and then kind of figuring it out from there. Richard Delgado coming in with a super chat. As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a Jets fan. Close up. Close up? Close up? Close up? I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but yeah, it sucks.
Poor guy.
not fun being a Jet fan. David, thank you so much for the super chat. Once a Jet, always a Jet. I follow all you guys on the panel. You guys are awesome. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much. Kyle Orm's coming in with another super chat. If we take a running back at 23 or with the second, I'm going to roundhouse someone. We need edge and cornerback help the most. Like one the Georgia cornerbacks or Joseph Osal from Texas. I could be open on running back at 34. I think I can sort of fall in line with that. I think the whole first round is really where I draw the line. I think edge and corner are important. So if I'm looking quarterback 2, edge corner would be my next 2 picks 100%, and then I'd look for running back probably in the 3rd round. Matt, what about you? You gonna roundhouse kick someone if we take a running back at either 23 or 34?
Like I want to say yes. Like in my heart, I want to say yes. But the level of Travis Etienne and Najee Harris is really nice. But I'm gonna be a little upset. I think I really love, and Green Bean talked him up earlier, but I'm very high on Patrick Jones II. I love him, and I would love him at either 23 or 34. Interior offensive line to me is a must take that early. Corners a take early. So I think you got to wait until at least round 3.
Green Bean, what are your thoughts on taking a running back with either our second first-round pick or our second-round pick? Are you going to roundhouse kick someone? I know you were talking about Najee Harris a while back.
Well, you guys will see something. I'm going to bring it up again, and I didn't intend on this, but in my most recent podcast that was released today, you got to see my intro. I show you how athletically inclined I really am. I do an intro where I ride my bike. So I was going to do like a slide with my bike. But I just at the last second I felt it. I'm going to fall. I'm not, this isn't who I am anymore. Like, you know what I mean? So I just kind of slowly stopped. So as far as roundhouse kicking anyone, I don't think that's a part of my life anymore. I just don't, man. I don't want to embrace my age, but roundhouse kicks that was like a 6-month period of my life that I even thought I could do that. But here's the thing. The more I look at this, and Najee Harris was my favorite running back the whole time, like from the beginning of this year, this season, all the way till now. But Etienne actually came in and took that top spot for me, breaking all the Clemson records and all that. But I'm back to Najee Harris. Like the thing is, I really do think he's a special player. Like he's not just taking a running back. So if he's sitting there at 34 and they want to take him, I would be okay with that. If he slides to that point, you're getting a guy who just shouldn't be there. And even though I agree with what Matt said, especially when you're talking about Patrick Jones, who's my favorite rusher in the draft, it's really going to be hard to pass on that. But if they're like, hey, look, this is an integral component to what we want to put on the field as an offense, and you're getting a guy like the next Derrick Henry, you know, can you really fault that if these guys want to do that? I would be okay with it as long as we're not taking Najee Harris, you know, in the top 10 or something like that, or even in the first. I think the 2nd round pick, I'd be okay with it.
Jeff Loke, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, hey guys, if we get Watson, what weapons would you want Joe Douglas to get him, whether it be through draft, free agency, or trades? My top guys, weapon-wise, Matt brought it up in his most recent mock offseason with the whole Deshaun Watson thing. I think Curtis Samuel makes a ton of sense. Like, a ton of sense. I don't know if he would necessarily be the only receiver I'd look to bring in if we brought him in, but I think he fits the scheme really well. I think in terms of trades, I don't really like the idea of trading for anyone. Through the draft, I had Shea Smith in my, I want to say it was 5th round out of South Carolina. He's an interesting prospect. I don't know. It's interesting. If we go Curtis Samuel, so Matt, I'll frame this question like this: If we get Curtis Samuel, are you going after another wide receiver, and if so, when?
Wow, that's a really good question. And Ryan, I think this is gonna have to be the last one for me because I gotta. Hop
Okay.
off.
Yeah. No worries. Oh, I forgot. I wasn't even looking at the time.
No. That's good. I think I would look for one in the draft in maybe the second or third round. I really like Seth Williams out of Auburn. I think he would be a really nice find. Sage Surratt, I think, would be a really nice find as well. And I know they wouldn't have that, big number, quote unquote, number one receiver. But at that point, I think you'd have a deep wide receiver room, which I think could be just as effective. So I think that I would go with a second or third round receiver. I would be surprised if you're able to pull an Allen Robinson and a Curtis Samuel type of player in free agency. And just quick before I go, just wanted to thank the chat one more time. You guys were absolutely amazing tonight. I love doing the stream with both you guys, and I was really blown away. So I just wanted to get that out there before I go, and I'll be back next week.
Matt, thank you so much for jumping on again, as always. And guys, again, we can't thank you enough for everything you guys have done. This is incredible. So Matt, I'll leave it there. Take it easy, brother. I'm going to let Matt leave, and then I got to figure out how to do this little small side-by-side. Oh, look at this. Look how – it's like I set this up to begin with. There's barely any lag. It shifts right over.
Let me see.
All right, so Green Bean, what do you think we do if we get Watson? What weapons are we surrounding him with?
Well, so if we got Curtis Samuel, I agree with what Matt said. I think if you sign any of these receivers in free agency, it takes the priority off of using your premium draft capital on that position. You already have Denzel Mims. You already have Jamison Crowder, and then you got Berrios kind of wrapping up the back end of that. Bringing in a Curtis Samuel, Allen Robinson, Godwin, if you go any of those routes and bring in another wide receiver, it just pushes the priority down. Not that you don't need one, but Matt and I feel the same way about Seth Williams. Like, he's one of my favorite receivers in the draft. Like last year, you remember, I really attached to Laviska Shenault. Like, I just, for me, he's exactly the type of receiver that I like. The injury thing was a concern, but he was my favorite. This year, it's Seth Williams. Like, I love the game. I love how he plays. I love his hands. I love strong hands. And Seth Williams has that. And you're going to be able to get him most likely in the third round. So that's where, like, the Sage Surratt's, Seth Williams, they're going to be there most likely. So I would say use that premium draft capital on your interior offensive line, on your edge rusher, even cornerback, and push wide receiver to, you have 2 third-round picks. That's where you should be taking a wide receiver.
Yeah, hey, I completely agree. I think receiver in free agency is a lot more interesting to me than receiver early in the draft, I think. And I saw a pretty funny message from TJ Decker goes, Matt's going to brag about how great his lawnmower 2.0 is. We forgot to tell Matt before. I don't know if you were in the stream yesterday or not, Green Bean, when it happened, but someone commented, tell Matt to stop asking us to shave our balls. It was pretty funny. Marty Thompson, thank you so much for the super chat. Fuller, a younger former first-round pick and likely to be a cheaper addition to the roster due to injury and baggage. Do you think he'd be a good wide receiver? Also, a wide receiver, hold on, let me just find it real quick. Wide receiver Robinson, I think he's the real deal. So Green Bean, what do you think about Fuller? Would you add him?
No, I don't think that he really fits the mold of what we're trying to build here. He just doesn't. And the thing is, like, right now, like, we're not at that bottom feeder kind of take anybody who's willing to come here anymore. Like, that's not who we are. Like, you saw it last year, and people were pissed at it, but you saw what Joe Douglas did in free agency last year. He absolutely refused to be the top bidder for anyone. He's just, no, that's over. We're not paying the Jets tax anymore. I'm not drafting guys who want to get the big contract and just sit on their ass and loaf around. I just got rid of those guys off of my team. So I don't think that he's the type of guy to just bring in anyone. He's looking for a specific type of player, the team captain, the leader, those types of guys, guys that you don't have to worry about getting in trouble for, failing drug tests and all those kinds of things. Like, he's building the best culture in all of sports. Remember that. That's what he's shooting for. He's not just shooting for like winning. He wants to develop and maintain the best culture in all of sports. You're not doing that with guys like Fuller. You're not doing that with Jamal Adams. You're not doing that with these guys. He wants guys that are going to be not only team players, but guys that are self-motivators as well. Like, they don't need to be pushed and, like fucking Tremaine Johnson and all, like, those guys. Dude, goodbye. Get all that garbage out. So that's not that Fuller's there, but I just think he's not the guy for us. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. So culture is a huge part of this. I think injury for me is probably the bigger part of Will Fuller. I love when he's on the field. If he could be on the field for 16 games, sign me up, 100%. He's kind of the deep threat that I compare to like Deshaun Jackson, to Brashad Perriman, always having a hamstring injury or having some sort of nagging injury that prevents him from really, fulfilling his potential. Nicholas jumps in with Super Chat, says, what do you think of Darnold and number 23 to the 49ers for number 12? And what do you think of re-signing Leonard Williams under Saleh? I don't want to re-sign Leonard Williams. I'm really happy with Quentin Williams, so I'll get that right off the bat, and thank you so much for the Super Chat. As far as Darnold and number 23 to get up to number 12, yeah, I could get on board with that. There's a shot that Pitts falls around there. Which is just as good of a receiver weapon as you could get. And if that's the case, if I don't know if you're taking Wilson or if you're getting Watson or however it works, but that would be certainly an interesting situation. Greenbean, what do you think about Darnold and 23 to get up to number 12?
That's one of my favorite scenarios, honestly. Like, I really do like that idea. Like, trading Sam for a high second or a low first, like, one of the last 3 or 4 first. Like, I like that. But the idea of using Sam Darnold's value to take your first and move up to the premium blue chipper range, I really do like that idea. Now, and it's funny, and I want to make sure that this is said clearly. Like, I talk about Freiermuth a lot, because he's more realistic for where the Jets are picking. My absolute number 1 tight end in this class is Kyle Pitts. I mean, I think the guy's an absolute game changer. He reminds me of like the type of game that like Tony Gonzalez and that impact. Now Freiermuth is great. Really, I love him. But if we have a chance to get Kyle Pitts, that's the tight end that you consider taking in the top 20. Like it really. So that's why I don't mention Kyle Pitts as much, because he's just not where we're going to be. Now, if you use Sam to trade up to 12 and we still have the number 2 pick, like, so we grab our quarterback and now we have the 12th pick and you're looking at that group of guys, Kyle Pitts would make a ton of sense up there, because he is absolutely going to have the same impact as any wide receiver in this draft, in my opinion. I would love it.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a weapon to go up and get, I mean, Pitts is certainly an attractive option. I think I would prefer a quantity over quality. It's weird to sort of say that, but I think the Jets have so many issues across the board, and I think getting a few picks, like a second round pick, like turning Sam into a second and turning, our second first overall pick, or second number 23 overall, into 2 good players. Like, even if it's not, maybe it depends. If you're getting a blue chip player up at 12, probably consider it, but you're probably getting someone within a certain deviation, close to the 23rd pick. So for me, I think I would roll with the picks maybe than getting all the way up to 12, unless it was someone that I really, really liked. So I would really consider that. Dimitri, thank you so much for the $50 super chat. I can't put the whole thing on the screen, but he says, don't want Watson if it means losing 3 picks. It's losing 5 spot starters for 1 player. If you flip number 2 for 2 picks, Watson had a great year and team only won 4 games. We can do that with crap quarterback, want sustained success, not quick fix. So for me, and thank you so much for the super chat. For me, I think the aspect of giving up the starters and saying that Houston only won 4 games. For me, the defense for Houston was just so bad. ESPN had a statistic where they ranked 480 teams, and they ranked 478th out of 480 in terms of defensive efficiency. Like, that is a horrible team. And then Deshaun Watson is one of 4 quarterbacks in the history of the league to go for 70% completion percentage and 8.5 yards per attempt. The other 3 guys, Breeze, Montana, and Steve Young, all won a Super Bowl in the year they did that. So that just shows how good Watson is and how horrible the Texans are, that they earned the 3rd overall pick. And not to mention, like, the Jets, we were a last-second field goal and a goddamn Hail Mary against the Raiders from being a 4-win team. So you're telling me Deshaun Watson on the Jets does not improve us the way that we're saying it does, and we just wind up being like Houston? I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. I think Watson is a huge addition here. Now, losing 3 picks, it depends which 3 picks. If you're saying, the next 3, like these 2 first-rounders plus next year's first-rounder, it's a little tough, but I think I'm still doing it. Green, what do you think about, Watson coming over here and not having, necessarily the picks?
Well, I think, if anybody who's really thinking that, like, it's not that losing those picks doesn't take away some potential. Obviously it does, of course. But anybody who's thinking that, if you haven't watched Ryan's video on how we can build with the trade, and you even went high side on a lot of things for your estimate, which is really the way to do it, right? You look at worst case, not best case. So if you guys are still thinking that you can't build if you make the trade for Watson, take a look at Ryan's video. What's that called? Is it just called Watson trade?
Yeah, I think it's like rebuilding, or can you rebuild around Deshaun Watson or something to that effect? You go over, like, I had us taking Thuney and Robinson purely because they were the most expensive guys. We could go literally any other direction and save money. Like, it goes to show you just how much space and picks and everything that the Jets actually have.
Yeah. So I think that, like, look, losing first-round picks, second-round picks, third-round picks, every time you lose one of those, of course it's going to take some of your potential to build away. At the same time, the number one thing to do in this league, this is a quarterback-driven league. The Jets' problem over the past 50 years has been our inability to find that guy for any real stretch of time. Even Chad was like, 4 or 5 years, and he was injured all the time. We had Vinny Testaverde at the end of his career. He was good. We had Fitzpatrick at the end of his career. He had that 1 year. We had Sanchez. He was okay, but that was really the team. Kenny O'Brien had a couple really good years, but we can't seem to find that guy. Deshaun Watson in the last 4 years in the league has absolutely proven, without question, he is one of the creme de la creme of that position in the NFL. It's not in question, man. He is. If you can do that, you do it, as long as it's not absurd, like 5 firsts or like, no way. But if it's like 2 firsts and a third, or, something like that, where it's obviously valuable, like, you do it, man. And then you still do. Joe Douglas has given us 18 picks over the next 2 years. Plus, we have the second most cap space in the entire NFL. In a year when, and this is part of my podcast as well, I spent 20 minutes going through who's in salary cap trouble. 12 teams are over the cap. Another 5 or 6 only have, between 1 and 10 million under the cap. So most of these teams are going to be cutting guys, and we happen to be set up to be buyers for there's never going to be a free agency period like this again. And the thing is, not even free agents, guys who were cut so they don't fuck with the comp pick equation. And you would have watched, Joe Douglas is actually going to start flipping it so we're getting comp picks every year too. So it's not as black and white as people make it. It's not like you signed Deshaun Watson, can't build the team. That's not accurate. It's not accurate. And for a GM that knows what he's doing, you're still way in the realm of reality, like being able to realistically build your team. And Watson covers up a lot of those holes, man. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Shake and Bake, thank you so much for the super chat. I'm trying to like scroll through a few on the screen as we go. I don't think I'm going to be able to get to all of them. It really is incredible what you guys are doing here. He says, could you see a situation where we pick Chase at number 2 and maybe Trey Lance at 23? I don't think Trey Lance is going to fall that far. I think there's a real good shot Trey Lance definitely goes before pick 15. I mean, if you think that, if we don't take a quarterback at 2, is Miami trading out a 3 for someone who wants a quarterback, or are they letting Atlanta take their pick of the 2 quarterbacks? I don't think there's any shot the Jets take Chase at 2. I think you're going to have to take a quarterback if you want him, or you got to trade down and take the receiver. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think the thing with that, like, I agree 100%, but let me just say this too. In my opinion, if you're taking a receiver that high and everybody's on the board, you go Jamar Chase. Like, Jamar Chase's build is, I mean, he's what, 30 pounds or so heavier than Devonta Smith. So it's like, I mean, he's built to last in the NFL. I love Smith. I love him. But I think, like, if all things are equal and you have both of them on the board, in my opinion, currently you go with Chase. That's my only real thought there. But yeah, you don't take a receiver too with where we are right now.
Yeah. Who's the most likely free agent to come to New York? Says Hunter. Thank you so much for the super chat. Green Bean, in your opinion, who is the most likely free agent? If I were to peg someone as the most likely, if Thuney hits free agency, I think he's the most likely. If he doesn't, I think there's a real good shot we bring in one of like the 49ers cornerbacks like Sherman. I think just to sort of get some, a little bit of an inside track on training our guys on the defense. Someone from the 49er defense. What about you, Green Bean? Who do you think is the most likely free agent to come here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to go without question that we're going to bring over a 49er or two. And I know people don't like the idea of Richard Sherman because he's not the player that he once was. But bringing somebody like him in just to help instill, the culture into these guys' heads of what a solid defense wants to be, like how they hold themselves. And because he's an outspoken guy, he's really been known to be very helpful to the younger cornerbacks over there. So I don't know. I could see that, but I agree with you. I think as far as like who we're going to go after, it's Joe Thuney's way at number 1. Hey, let me just say, Bill Neflenberg, I see your comments, dude. You don't need to spam, and it's only been 2, not 3. You don't need to spam, dude. What the fuck is that?
Marty, our Aussie from down under, brother, thank you so much for the super chat. I cannot tell you how much it means. He drops in with a $100 super chat. Aussie love to see Jets with angel wings. R.I.P. God bless to all. Fuller, a younger. Oops. Hold on. Am I doing this again? Baggage. Oh, injury. Sorry. I already had that one up there. Let's see. Ray, thank you so much for the super chat. He says Danny will know when the Jets win a Super Bowl. He'll be watching 100%. He won't miss that game. Aiden, thank you so much for the super chat. Says, really appreciate all the time I spend with y'all on Tuesday nights. Really, really does mean a lot. Mumtaz coming in with a big time super chat of $50. Support our heroes. Kuiper drops his first mock. Devonta Smith for us. Also, I am seeing all kinds of players that didn't show up in any of previous mock drafts. Yeah, I don't understand Kuiper's draft process. Maybe he's saying that we don't trade or that we're going to trade down and keep Sam. I think he's just trying to protect his, he wanted Sam so badly. He had him rated so high. I think he's almost like protecting his status of like the top quarterback. What do you think, Green Bean?
Yeah, right. He's like trying to will it, with any little influence he has. Yeah, I don't know. I think Kuiper is he's obviously been there like the longest. Like it used to be like Kuiper and Chris Berman like battling it out on ESPN when the draft was in the theater under Madison Square Garden. Like nobody would go. It was, so I think Kuiper might be trying to get in that shock value realm Like that's what I'm picking up from him. Like he's just saying shit that everybody's like, what? Because that gets the clicks, that gets the interest, that gets the conversation going. So I think that might be really what he is doing. But in truth, I never really liked Kuiper's drafts. I think that he's not all that good. You know, like he's clearly found his niche. You know, he's been doing this longer than anybody, and he's a respected name. But I don't know how accurate he really is. And I tend to disagree with him often. And like taking a wide receiver at number 2 for the Jets is just plumb silly. You know, it's silly. But I think, right, he might be trying to, number 1, get clicks, number 2, just as long as he can support the idea of Sam Darnold, like it makes sense, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Let's see, we got Curly Norman. Thank you so much for the super chat. Says, recently subscribed to all you gentlemen. I enjoy all the content. Depressed Jets season ticket holder since the 90s. Great job. Go Jets. We were season ticket holders, section 327, all the way at the top, second to last row. Nosebleeds, baby. Been awesome. What would you say your favorite spot in one of the stadiums would be? Where do you like sitting when you're out there?
Yeah, well, you know, MetLife is weird because it's like I feel like the seats are further away from the field. So like I really liked Giant Stadium. I never was able to go to Shea. Like I remember watching games at Shea, but I never made it over there. I was young still. Mm-hmm. So when we used to go to Giant Stadium all the time, and my seats were perfect. I had section 311, like row 23 for like 6 years, 5 or 6 years. I think it was 6. And that was 50-yard line upper level. Like that, those seats in MetLife are like the top of the lower level. Like that's where they are. Like MetLife, number 1, it's taller, but it's like further. It's what, like your seats, I can't see up there, man. It's just, I mean, I can, but it's like, I feel like I'm like not even part of the game. It's quiet up there. So I really like the bowl stadiums. Like I like them. Like when it's loud. We should have put a roof on there, you know. So I have issues with MetLife in general, but I'm like a 50-yard line upper level kind of guy. Like that's where I am.
I like watching the plays develop. It's fun. I got to see a game in Miami a few years ago, 2 years ago now, I think, and their stadium, I like it a lot. It's like it's super easy to get around. It's kind of like not MetLife. It's kind of like Giant Stadium where you can walk around the entire building on any one of the floors. Like right now, it sucks because you're trying to like get around and you got to go up a flight of stairs and down a flight of stairs. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. Metal Scrapehead, thank you so much for the super chat, dropping in with a $50 donation to a great cause. Love the channel, guys. My dad is a veteran and got me into the Jets for better or worse. Just wanted to say, Jets vets unite. Take flight, Danny. R.I.P. brother. Brother, it makes the world of difference. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thomas Medina, Mandia, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, dropping in with a big time super chat, says, older than Green Bean. Listen to Namath play on the radio when games blacked out locally. R.I.P. Thanks for your work, Ryan. Dude, that is an awesome super chat. $100. Thank you so much. Going to a great cause. Green Bean. Wow. Did you ever listen to the Jets growing up on the radio, or when did you become the Jets fan? When did you get sucked into this terrible situation?
Well, it's cool though because so I've been a fan since 1982. I was 10 years old. Like that's when that all happened, but it was different back then. Like obviously there was no internet. We didn't have this. So I really liked like reading the New York Post and reading the Daily News. I would get them every single day, sit in the bathroom at work, take my half-hour break and just read all the Jets articles. Like I like that. And I used to love listening to the Jets were on 880 for a long time, and the Giants were on the Fan, and the Jets were on 880 for a long time. And I would listen to guys like Ian Eagle and Marty Lyons, I think was, whatever. But so, so I love Jets radio. But the thing is with growing up there is that the Jets are the game on. You know what I mean? So it was like you always got to watch the Jets, which is really beneficial when you live in the hometown of the team. As I've traveled, like I lived in near Miami. I was just saying to Harold, on the chat, I lived right next to the Miami Dolphins stadium for over 10 years. So I would go to every Jets game there and everything. But it was, other than that game, I didn't get to see the Jets. I used to have to go to a place called, it was the South Florida Jets fan club. And there was like 100 to 200 Jet fans in South Florida. And we'd get together and do all that. But I used to have to go like pay, you know, and then I got the whole Sunday ticket. And that's what I do now. Cause now I'm only in any given place for 2 or 3 weeks. And then I'm on to the next place. So Sunday ticket. But yeah, man, I used to love listening to the games on the radio and watching it. You know, I love it. I loved being up there for the Jets.
Guys, thank you so much for everything you did tonight. Just as a quick tally, so I told you guys I'm going to be donating $200 to the charity for Danny. You guys helped us raise over $800 to go towards this charity. I am absolutely blown away. Thank you so much. Anyone who's watching this after the fact, if you do want to donate, there's a link in the top of the description. It goes to a great cause. Great Jet fan. We lost a good one, guys. And I'll leave it there. Green Bean, thank you so much. No music tonight. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. It absolutely means the world. And man, the Jet fan base is something special. So
yeah. Absolutely. Thanks, guys. You made the night. You made the night.
I'll see you guys for the 10 o'clock.